So the HTC One M9 and the Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge have been officially announced at MWC this year. What's up guys, it's Ed from TechSource, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the specs and features of both phones. Alright, so first let's talk about price and availability. The M9 is expected to launch sometime in March for around a full retail price of $649, and it will be available in these following carriers and retail stores. Also, HTC.com will sell an unlocked version. The M9 will also be available in the following color combinations. Now, the S6 and S6 Edge will be available in April 10 globally with a few colors to choose from as well. However, the blue topaz will only be available for the S6 and the green emerald will only be available exclusively for the S6 Edge. The price hasn't been announced yet for either phone, but I believe it will land anywhere from $600 to $800, with the S6 Edge costing slightly more. It'll also be available in these retail stores and carriers. Alright, now let's talk about specs. Both phones are very similar in height and width, however the M9 weighs more due to its full aluminum body. Not only is the S6 lighter, but it's also much thinner than the M9, measuring at 6.8mm for its thickness. The HTC One M9 sports a 1080p Super LCD 3 5-inch screen with a pixel per inch count of 441, whereas the S6 and Edge sport a 1440 by 2560 5.1-inch Super AMOLED screen with a pixel per inch count of 577. Software-wise, the M9 is running HTC Sense UI 7.0, while the Galaxy S6 sticks to their TouchWiz, and to be fair, Samsung actually announced that their UI is 40% lighter than before, so I'll definitely be testing that out when I get my hands on one. Both phones start at 32GB of internal memory, however you can expand up to an additional 128GB via SD card slot on the M9. Unfortunately, the S6 and S6 Edge, there is no option to expand your memory, so you have to decide on how much memory you need before buying one, just like the iPhone lineup. When it comes to battery life, only one phone gets an upgrade while the other gets a downgrade. The M9 jumps up to a 2840 mAh battery, up from 2600 from the M8, and the Galaxy S6 downgrades to a 2550 mAh battery from 2800 last year. I'm actually really curious about the battery performance and whether or not this change is actually an upgrade for the device or a downgrade, but I guess we'll find out once I get my hands on one. Moving to camera specs, the M9 finally gets rid of that horrendous dual camera feature on the back and instead replaces it with a 20.7 megapixel sensor with an aperture of 2.2. The Galaxy S6 on the other hand sticks to the same 16 megapixel camera but with a much lower aperture of 1.9, giving it much better low light performance. Samsung also stated that their camera is a lot better this time around, so I'm really excited to test it out. The front-facing cameras on both phones can shoot in 1080p at 30 fps, however the M9 has a 4 megapixel sensor and the S6 has a 5 megapixel sensor. Both phones can also shoot in 4K resolution and slow motion at 120 fps. And here is a list of the rest of the specs, which I won't bore you guys with. You can pause the video if you want time to read them all, but for the sake of time, I will move forward. Now let's talk about build quality. The M9 has a full aluminum body with rounded edges and a rounded back just like the M8 was. However, it's not as slippery thanks to its coating and thicker sides, making it much bulkier and easier to hold on to. The S6 on the other hand has definitely stepped up its game with a full metal frame and Gorilla Glass for the front and back, finally giving the phone a premium feel we have all been waiting for. Unfortunately, with that upgrade, the phone loses some key features that include a removable battery and an expandable SD card slot. I personally think that the trade-off was well worth it. One thing I don't like about the S6's build is the protruding camera on the back. It would have been nice to keep it somewhat flush like the HTC One M8, then again installing a case would eliminate that problem. The HTC One M9 finally moved the power button back down to the right side, although much lower than its predecessor, just under the volume buttons, so there might be some adjusting to do to get used to it. The speakers and the front-facing camera are also still in the same location as the M8, and the same can be said about the Galaxy S6. However, the home button is slightly larger with an improved fingerprint reader. Instead of having all the buttons on the right side of the phone like the M9 does, the S6 volume buttons are located on the left side of the phone, whereas the power button and the SIM card slot are located on the right side. Besides the S6 having its speakers located on the bottom of the phone this time around instead of the back, you can find the usual headphone jack and micro USB port on the bottom for both devices. Anyways, that wraps up the comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S6 and the HTC One M9. There will be tons more content covering these two phones, including my famous camera tests, benchmarks, and speed tests, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. I also want to ask you guys, which phone do you prefer, the M9, the Galaxy S6, or the S6 Edge? Feel free to leave your answer in the comment section down below. Anyways, once again, thanks for watching. This is Ed from TechSource, and I'll see you guys in the next video.